the meeting. And we are again meeting virtually by virtue of the governor's executive order, and the meeting is being recorded. We are going to start with our truth and taxation public hearing to consider property tax increase. Attorney Hoover, we have to call the roll for this. Is that correct?
Please call the roll.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Here.
trustee Dickon,
Here.
thank you. Trustee Eastman, trustee Haber,
Here.
trustee Hollander,
Here.
trustee Jamerson,
Here.
President Ford.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a quorum. We're ready to begin. Attorney Huvard, will you lead us through this, the hearing, please?
Sure. Under the truth and taxation law, when a municipality wants to raise property taxes above 5% of the amount of the levy in the previous year, it's required to hold this hearing. The Board of Trustees made a determination that it was likely we would need to raise property taxes by more than 5% over last year's tax extension at a previous board meeting. And in advance of tonight, we published notice of this hearing in the Daily Herald. The notice and the subject of tonight's hearing is consideration of a proposed property tax levy increase for the village of Riverwoods. The taxes that were extended by the village, the property taxes in 2020 were $824,503. And the proposal that the board considered a few meetings ago, and that would be for the tax levy this year in 2021, would be $988,800. This represents a 19.93% increase over the amount of taxes that were extended in 2020. The board has held workshop meetings and presented the reasons for the increase in the property taxes. I think the board would probably note that under the 5-year budget that it looked at and projections, this would be the only year in that next 5 years in which it's contemplated that there would be an increase of this size. So that's the purpose of the hearing. If at this point there's anyone who has tried to write in to comment, or is there anyone in the attending through the Zoom that wants to participate, now would be the time to take public comment.
I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand. We have a number of screens that are darkened, but I am not seeing anybody raise their hand. Yell out if I've missed you.
There were no emails sent in.
Thank you, Chief. So seeing none and hearing none, I believe we can move forward from here.
The motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none and hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the truth and taxation hearing is now closed, and we will open the meeting of the Board of Trustees. And I'd like to begin that with a roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Here.
trustee Dickon,
Here.
trustee Eastman,
Here.
trustee Haber,
Here.
trustee Hollander,
Here.
trustee Jamerson,
Here.
President Ford.
Here.
Thank you.
First item of business is the approval of the minutes of the November 2nd board meeting. Do I see a motion for approval?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Are there any discussion, comments, questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
I just want to add that I did receive a slight request change from Chief Dano. Security survey versus he would like it to say home security survey instead of just home survey. So I will check the recording and ensure that was what was said.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander, trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item of business is the approval of bills. Trustee Hollander,
Yeah, I just want to remind Daphne that we were going to try to alternate the votes, maybe alphabetically or some other way, but trustee Clayton seems to be coming up first all the time. I thought we were going to try to do that.
So I have done that for all of the ordinances, resolutions, and contracts. So trustee Hollander, you'll be first tonight. But for the roll call and minutes, I just thought alphabetical still made sense. But if you want me to mix
No,
those up
no,
too, I can.
that makes
Careful what
sense.
you-
Sorry.
Careful what you wish for, Henry.
Yeah.
go first every single time now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have the council report, the approval of bills. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any questions, comments?
Well, I'm going to have a question on the statement of revenue and expenditures, which has something to do with the bill, but I think probably the discussion belongs under the statement of revenue and expenditures, so I'll wait.
Okay. Trustee Haber, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. Oh, trustee Dickon.
I have a quick question. Page 3 of the bills, item number 389. It says Jametta Snow Plowing for 10/29 snow removal. I don't recall any snow on the 29th of October.
That, no, that's probably snow removal we pay in advance. I can ask,
Yeah, I believe that was an HOA that had their snow removal invoice. They sent it to the village, and I believe that was probably prior or upcoming, but I don't remember which specific HOA, but that was an HOA bill.
Got it. Thank you.
But that has to get charged then to that special service area, right? So is it coded correct?
It is.
Okay.
any other questions? All right, seeing none. Roll call.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next order of business is the Treasurer and Finance Committee report. Trustee Clayton, please.
I apologize for putting all the detail into the packet. We don't usually do that. And now I'm probably going to get a bunch of questions that I don't know the answer to. But in the meantime, if you could go to page 53 of the packet, which is after all the detailed summary of revenue and expenses, that's the cash report. And there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out to you. First of all, the general fund cash went up $119,000, which is a good sign. It's continuing to hold steady. The cash in the general fund versus the capital fund will be something that we're going to want to return to when the board considers the fund management policies at a future board meeting. The other thing I wanted to call your attention to was the sewer fund. The sewer fund has $1.8 million in it as we speak. The target for that fund is $1 million. Pat Glenn has identified per year, grinder and pump maintenance, lift station modernization, and so on and so forth. That totals about $350,000 to $400,000 a year. And at this point, the surpluses that we're generating from operations covers that level of expenditure, and that level of expenditure holds for the next 5 years if our projections still hold. So we're sitting there with about $800,000 more in the sewer fund than we have targeted. And at some point, if the board wants to consider some kind of rate relief or some other method to move forward and get us closer to our target level, that should be something to think about.
Trustee Jamerson.
I think we should roll back the extra fee that we're charging every quarter. Because I want to say it's $54 a home. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what I remember from my last bill.
Yes.
If I may, I think it's $54 every 3 months. Does that sound right?
Yes, yeah, a quarter. So, so I think that if we think that the revenues are gonna offset the expenses without that, and we're over our target value, we should roll that back immediately, because I know the people have been complaining about it since we started it.
Okay, we'll come back to the board. We'll do an analysis and come back to the board with a proposal. On page 54 is the summary of revenue and expenses. A couple things to point out there. We had a pretty solid month in the general fund. He had a surplus of $127,000, and year to date we're running $273,000 to the good. That's primarily due to about $250,000 from general fund revenue, which I think is due to the police grant, and also the police department expense is running $209,000 below budget. So we're tracking and managing well. That's what I had to say about the financial statements. Before I go on, Rick, you had a question?
Yeah, actually I have several questions. So if we can look at it, it has to do with the first 4 pages of the statement and revenue expenditures. And I just have a couple things on each one that I'm wondering, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know. Anyways, when I looked at it on the very first page under revenues for the administration, the 5th item down is local use sales tax.
Can you point out the page number in the packet that you're referring to, please?
It's page 20.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's page 20. Under administration revenue, local use sales tax and municipal sales tax, which is right above that. I guess it could be, part of it could be a timing issue, but we have no annual budget for the local use sales tax. But we've taken in $127,000 to date, and the municipal sales tax shows a budget of $374, but we've only taken in 206, which could be a timing issue.
No,
But I'm wondering if that's supposed to be all in one.
Yes, it's all 3 of those lines total the sales tax revenue, and we didn't budget for the local use sales tax, but the total separately, but the total is still correct. So if you add up year-to-date actual, the home rule tax, the municipal sales tax, and the local use tax, I believe that'll give you a sense of what our total tax revenue is in those categories.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. On page 21, towards the bottom under expenditures, accounting expense, we had a budget of $24,500. We're now at $64,000. We still have 2 months to go. And the question that I had with this, is I don't see, as I look through it, and maybe you can tell me differently, but as I look through the rest of these figures, I didn't see that big of an offset in personnel. Maybe there is, I just didn't see it. The other question was, it shows $16,000 in actual for, I'm assuming that's the month of October. Current actual $16,000. but we only had a bill from Lauterbach and Amen of 10,760. So is there something else in there? I mean, I know we seem to be using them more than we had originally talked about. So maybe you could help me with that?
I believe, Roger or Nicole, correct me if this is wrong, but we're on an accrual basis now, so we're going to accrue the expenses every month at the rate that we're expecting to pay out regardless of how much cash actually leaves. So it should true up at the end of the year. Those accounting expenses are indeed L&A. I can't tell you where the offset is in salary. So I'll have to research that.
Okay, I understand accrual accounting, but I guess I don't understand. I mean, our budget was 24,005, so we're obviously using them way more than we had figured.
No,
The answer with the salaries and so forth gets very confusing because the salary, the administrative expense, salaries in particular, have been spread in a number of ways across these funds.
I
So
understand that.
it's not a
Okay.
clear picture.
Okay, that's fine. Administration hearing, couple lines down, prosecutor. A $35,000 budget, but we've only spent $1,500 to date. Okay. Seems odd. Postage expense on the next page is way up, like almost 200%. Did we change our postage? That's just a question. You don't have to answer it right now.
Rick, can I go back to the question you asked before about the administrative judge? I couldn't unmute in time.
Sorry.
I sent Nicole an email on that a while ago, and I think she was going to fix it, but some of the things were applied into the wrong areas. I think she had some administrative things applied under legal fees for police that belonged under not Nicole necessarily, but I think somebody put something in there. So I believe that that's on her list to straighten out at some point. Is that right, Nicole?
Yeah, I will go back to your email. I must have missed it and make sure things are coded correctly. I'll also look into the accounting expense and see what's being coded there.
Okay, and then a little farther down, almost at the bottom is donations. I'm going to guess that $47,000 that we spent to date is probably half of the NSSRA donation. That is about 4 lines above that. And we have a $95,000 budget for, but we've only spent $43,000. Because I know we haven't authorized $47,000 of the
no,
donations.
I believe you're correct.
And then lastly, miscellaneous expense of $30,000. You don't have to, I don't even want to know what it is. It just seems like that's a lot of money to have in miscellaneous expenses. Health and under building department, we had $43,000 budget for health insurance. We haven't used any, which is possible considering we don't have a full-time person in there. And then the other professional services down at the very bottom of that page, which is 22. Under the building department, we're almost double our budget there, which I'm not sure how that worked out. I have a couple questions on the last page, which would be page 23 in the packet. Snow removal is 100% above budget. Is that because is that an accrual thing again, or is that just because we didn't budget properly this last year? I mean, we haven't even hit the snow season yet.
No, but the budget would include January, February, and March of the last winter season. And I believe, as I recall off the top of my head, we had a pretty heavy snow removal expense during that period of time.
Okay. And then the only other question I have is the engineer expense under road and bridge, which probably has to do with all the construction we've done this year. Pat, is that why it's 400% over budget for the year?
Yeah, I don't know if we budgeted that granularly at the beginning to segregate them out. I also don't know where the expense for Saunders Road is getting accounted for.
Okay, those are my questions. Thanks. At some point, it'd be nice to get firm answers on some of those, but obviously I'm pulling this on you tonight, so. Thank you.
We'll try to do that.
Trustee Hollander?
Back on page 20, there was something on the hotel tax, which I'm not questioning the hotel tax, but I do remember we gave some sort of dispensation to the hotel a couple years ago, beginning of COVID, and I'm not sure if that's still active
No,
or been followed up.
no, it's been followed up on and they're back to paying the special use.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the statements? If not, just a couple other things that we're working on. We've sent out or about to send out the notices on the municipal gas tax, the 2 cent a gallon tax that goes into effect January 1st. We're just about done with the budget. We'll have that at an upcoming meeting. And we've got a couple grants that we're working on, and that's my report.
Are there any other questions? Okay, moving on, the Director of Community Services report.
Yes, good evening. First, I'll start off with maybe, I don't know if anybody knows this or had heard about this, but Sweet Basil has closed its doors. I figured it out Sunday when I was writing. They're now out of business, took all their signage down, took their awning down. But to go along with that, on Friday, I had a gentleman come in from Deerfield, and he runs and owns the Rhapsody Cafe. And I guess last month, either a month, 6 weeks ago, the building owners, where he had leased for 20 years, pulled his lease because they sold the building. So he's been sitting out in the open waiting to find a place. He has come and looked at the Sweet Basil. I was in touch with him today. He's negotiating as we speak to go ahead and take over that restaurant and move the Rhapsody Cafe into that space. So hopefully, if everything goes right, by the first of next month, we will have a new tenant. And from what I understand, he's very popular, has a great following. So hopefully we won't lose anything. And in fact, if everybody says he's as popular as he is, we'll probably see a lot more tax base coming out of there. So that's it for that one. And then tree survey information. We've been working with Kristen and Urban Forest. They got all the information to us. We're in the process right now. We're getting 3 contractors to bid on, give us a price of how much it would cost to take down trees. We're giving them 4 classifications of sizes. So this way, when we put a letter out to the residents for having tree removal, they will have some idea of what it's going to cost them. And if they think they could get a better price through their own contractor, they have that option. But at least we'll give them some figures to compare to, and hopefully get that in the works here within the next week or so. Any questions on that one?
No, I think, Russ, what we might add to that is that we are working with Urban Forest Management for the administration of this program, because it is not going to be without a lot of detail and a lot of follow-up. And we just feel like our staff is a little thin for that. So we're going to try and work with them in order to manage that process.
That's true. And then if anybody's noticed on the corner of Riverwoods and Saunders there, our sign, we're finally getting the bottom of it stoned in, match our village sign. That should be done either Thursday or Friday this week. The guys got a little ambitious putting down the stone, but we had to trim them back and get everything straightened back out there, but it should be done. So that's one project that's put on the list that'll be put to bed. And then last but not least, we've got to go back, revisit the fee schedule. We're now going to have a tobacco store. We have to get a license for that, kind of come up with a fee. We're going to have, it looks like a gaming facility. We got to sit down, come up with fees for that and fees for the machines. We got to put that in the fee schedule. And then we got to update all the business licenses for all these too. So I guess Bruce and whomever wants to get involved with the mayor, myself, the trustees have input, I would imagine, that they would like to see. And but that's something we should think about and revise our fee schedule, because some of these businesses are going to want to open up here in the next few weeks or a month, and we have to have something in our fee schedule so we can charge them accordingly. And and if anybody can think of anything that we're missing, we have a raffle we're going to add. We have a raffle fee to add to it. We don't have that in there. We found out that somehow, some way, we never put that in there. So we're going to add that also. So if anybody has anything else, please let me know or get in contact with me so I can make those additions to the fee schedule so we can update that.
Trustee Jamerson.
I'm not sure if I said this at another meeting or not, but I would like the village to seriously consider registering or licensing, if that's what you want to call it, contractors, generals, HVAC, electricals. You can't do plumbing because they get a state license. You can't do fire alarm because they also get a state license. But several other suburbs around us have license or registration fees. Buffalo Grove licenses everybody and their brother, $100 a crack every year. And some of the other ones are not quite as aggressive, but I think that we should do that, and it would be a source of income for us, and we could keep track of who's working in the village at the same time.
Trustee Jamerson, that is on the famous whiteboard. And over there staring at me every day. And we have had some discussions about that. So we'll, the licenses that Director Crayley is talking about really is stuff that's more immediate, that, you know, in order to just keep moving with those things. So yes, it's on the famous whiteboard. Thank you though.
Okay, thanks.
I like the idea just because it's also, like you said, we have a list of contractors then, we know who's working on something, we got a lot of information. So, you know, hopefully we've been very lucky, and I don't know of anybody who's come into town and scammed anybody, but you know, you just never know. So it's better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
That's my report for now.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on to the consultant's report, attorney's report, please.
The thing about the licenses we have been talking about, and we knew about the fee for the tobacco store because we just approved that, and video gaming. We'd already pretty much decided on those fees. We just didn't put them yet in the fee schedule, but we can do a very short amendment to the fee schedule for just those two now, the next meeting, and then, you know, do a more comprehensive rewrite of the fee schedule for other things, including all these other licenses if we adopt licenses for those other trades. The next thing, the mayor asked me to just comment on getting some of our personnel matters in hand. One of them is signing up for sexual harassment training. That's something that's obligatory on all the employees of the village, including, I guess, any official who gets a W-2 from the village who would be considered an employee. For those who are just serving for no compensation at all, you're not considered employees of the village. But a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, the state of Illinois passed a requirement that all employers require their employees to have annual sexual harassment training. And we've actually met as a workshop once, board members. I think, does anyone remember this? I think I have this memory of us meeting in the back room of the old village hall with a presenter on this topic. But anyway, just something to keep in mind there. We also have some cyber training requirements that help protect the village computers. And I think Mayor, we're just going to circulate maybe to those who are still behind and following up on some of the training that we want them to take, is maybe just follow up later with that, but
Yeah.
just some things that we have to, bookkeeping we have to do here, get our ducks in a row.
Sergeant Futzenritter will be sending out some reminder notices. And the cybersecurity training becomes important for people who have access to our village servers. And it's best practices. So when we send that out, please consider it seriously, and particularly if you have access to our servers here in Village Hall. That is very important. We might be considering a mandate for people in order to have remote access, for example, go through that training. So that's all on the table at this point in time, but the highly recommend the both of these trainings. I've completed them and takes a little time, but it's certainly worthwhile.
Okay, other things on my list, just to remind the board, at the December 7th board meeting, we'll have the annual tax levy ordinance. We will be contacting all of the special service area groups, the road associations, to find out what they would like to have as a maintenance levy this year. So we have to reach out to a number of people. Some of you are in SSAs, have already communicated with me, but you know who you are if you haven't, and if anyone. So we will be reaching out to people to get their preferred numbers for that. In addition, just as a reminder, we also will have a couple of abatement ordinances. We had some SSA surpluses in the construction budgets for some of the road SSAs, and we found a way to partially abate their taxes to use up that surplus over the remaining term of the bonds. This affects Kenilwood SSA, SSA 26, I think, and also one of the others, SSA 27. So we'll have the normal tax levy activity occurring. And I just want to make sure we'll have a quorum at the December 7th meeting, because otherwise we need to plan differently for that. I think everything else that I really should talk about is probably on the agenda. Lori is probably going to talk about the Plan Commission report. We are going to have a Plan Commission meeting in December, and I think the only matter on the agenda that I know of will be to continue the hearing on the proposal by the gentleman who is going to take space in the Holistic Health Center building. Lori, maybe I won't mention that, because if you're going to go into that, I don't need to, but just to let the board know, we should be having a Plan Commission meeting in December. The only matter on the agenda that I'm aware of is the continued hearing on this particular health wellness market center request. I have been in touch with Ted Clark, our special counsel, labor counsel, on our police union contract negotiations. We don't have dates yet from the union representatives. If we don't have dates, we continue under the old contract as it is until we finally have a chance to sit down and negotiate. So we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. And the last thing, Lee Brown is the president of Tesco Associates. You may remember that Tesco Associates did some planning for us, did a master plan a couple of years ago for the 37 acres and also the area where the Federal Life property is. Because we anticipate having some submissions from Lexington Homes, we asked Lee Brown if he could help us, assist us in a planning capacity. And we haven't seen anything yet from Lexington, but they have contacted Lee to begin some exploratory meetings where they show some sketch drawings, and he has a chance as our planning advisor to make some suggestions and recommendations. So we'll show you more about that once we have something more to show. That's it.
Are there any questions for council at this point? Okay, seeing none, the engineer's report, please.
We are furiously working to wrap up this year's street program. I think if unless something really bizarre happens with the weather, we will be successful once more. There'll probably be a little bit of landscaping and such that'll have to roll around to the spring, but we'll get the surface down. And then the meter upgrade program rolls along. That's every week they're doing 50, 60 homes. So that project is carrying on, and that's all I have.
I'd like to add a little bit to the meter discussion if I can. I know there's been some confusion, and there could be some of our residents who get bills that they're uncertain of. And as they call in, we're going to make sure that their particular situation is discussed with them if there's a problem with the meter, or it's just a question of a system snafu. So just wanted you to know that there could be some complaints associated with the meter switchover, but we're working hard on it, and you know, we'll handle resident questions as they come up. Anything else for the engineer at this point? I do not see the ecologist with us this evening, and I don't believe that there was anything to report there. So on to the Plan Commission report. Chairman Brightcoff, would you like to present your report, please?
Yes. I see on the agenda, it says report on hearing of November 4th, 2021. We actually had 2 hearings, or at least 1.5 hearings on November 4th. The first one was an application from B Cafe for amendments relating to what we thought was a cafe food shop. And so we went into the hearing, and we got partway through and we realized that the applicant had a different plan than we had imagined. And it wasn't really a cafe food shop. It was more like a wellness services center with meal plans and some smoothies. So there may be no need for text amendments because the site already is approved as a medical office. And the way that we left it is that we would get more information from B Cafe as to, so they could clarify their plan for us. So we continued the hearing until the 2nd of December. The second hearing was on Thornton's application for a gas station convenience store. And you have received the report from the Plan Commission in your packet. Just to summarize, Thornton's made its presentation. The commissioners and the public asked questions. Thornton's responded to the questions. Some of the visitors made statements. And then we discussed it as a Plan Commission. We took a vote, and the vote was 5-1 to recommend approval of the application to the board. The one vote against was mine. And that's because I think building a new gas station in this time of climate change is ecologically inappropriate. And I think that Riverwoods professes to be ecologically sensitive and has ecological ideals, and it should not be adding to the fossil fuel burden of this region. So that's why I voted no. Any questions?
Yeah, are there any questions? Are there any comments on part of the trustees? Are there any comments or questions on the part of, oh, Attorney Huvart? You're muted.
Sorry. Based on the positive recommendation of the Plan Commission, the board, of course, can accept the recommendation. I just wanted to sort of lay out what your next steps would be and direct us to prepare the requisite ordinances that would need to be brought back to another board meeting. The board can discuss and not take any action, or the board can disagree with the Plan Commission recommendation. So once you get the report, having the report is the predicate. You have to have it in order to move forward with whether or not to act on the request for the special use. amendment that Torrance has put forward. We have, we explained in the original staff report to the Plan Commission, what's come before the board at this point was what we contractually required of the developer to do, which is submit for zoning and special use approval just in accordance with what they've done, and demonstrate that they've satisfied all the requirements under our other applicable ordinances for the special use. So we have two considerations here. One is a normal zoning consideration, which is you have a Plan Commission report and what the board feels about that. And the other consideration is to recall that you're also acting pursuant to the redevelopment agreement with this developer. And we have to think through, if the board takes step A or B with the Plan Commission report, what the next step is under the redevelopment agreement. If the board approves the Plan Commission report, and we move forward with adopting ordinances to implement it, then the next steps under the redevelopment agreement are to start planning for closing on the sale of the property to the developer.
Trustee Jamerson.
Well, I just want to say a couple things. I didn't get a chance to push my unmute button quick enough before Bruce started talking. So I would like to say that I understand everything Chairman Brykoff said about why she voted no. And I agree with a lot of what she said. Actually, I agree with most of what she said. However, I do think that this gas station is not going to create demand for more gas. It's going to take demand away from other stations. I mean, people are not going to just start using more gas because Thornton's is on the corner. And this probably is going to be unpopular, but I'm just going to say it anyways. I think the reason that the trustees feel we need the tax revenue is because, and I haven't lived in Riverwoods as long as many people on the board, but I will say that from what I've heard from the past, Riverwoods has been somewhat elitist in who they want in town, and also as far as annexing properties, especially along Milwaukee Avenue. And I think that's led to the fact that we have a very small retail base. And that's, you lose one sales tax generator and we're in deep trouble. Unfortunately, the other towns around us have not been shy about annexing properties and building big buildings and big property tax and sales tax generators. And so we find ourselves in a bind, and, it's not the best place in the world to be. So, we need the tax revenue. That's what it boils down to, or that tax levy that we just talked about at the beginning, the first meeting, would be 3 times what it's going to be. So, so that's all I have to say. I mean, I'm going to vote for this, a yes for this, but that's all I have to say. Just wanted to air my conscience.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Hollander, did you have a?
I'd like to have Bruce begin the process. We've gone through the steps. We've known about this for several months. We've certainly been in contract. There's significant expenses that have been incurred by the potential purchaser. And I think that we ought to take a position and move forward with it.
I'm not entirely clear that we need do we need a motion to approve the Plan Commission meeting, or do we need just to, by consensus, direct the attorney to move forward?
I direct the attorney to move forward with this.
I think the consensus to move forward would be fine, because you'll have an opportunity to vote at the next board meeting or whenever we get it done.
Okay, I'm going to go around the table with that then. And I'm going to start with the way people are on my screen. Trustee Clayton, do you agree to move forward?
Yes.
Trustee Jamerson, I think I know the answer.
Yes.
Trustee Hollander, I've heard the answer. Trustee Haber,
Absolutely.
Trustee Dickon,
Yes.
and Trustee Eastman.
Yes.
Okay. then we will move forward with the appropriate ordinances and so forth to see Thornton's on the corner. Thank you.
Just
Thank you for your consideration.
Attorney Hubert, is there one more thing we need to
just
do?
a follow-up question. Thornton's representatives had everyone here tonight in case there were questions. Does the board want them to be available at the next meeting if you have questions?
Trustee Holland?
Yeah, I was at the Plan Commission meeting, and I have to say that I think even Commissioner Loriwitz agreed that the presentation was excellent. And I don't know if whether or not the board has seen that actual presentation, but I would recommend if they could maybe shorten it a little bit, but do a similar one, it would be a very educational for us. It was just excellent.
Okay, all right. Is that agreeable? Trustees, you can just nod your head or shake your head. Okay, thank you. Thank you, please. So I guess we'll leave it. There's a hand from somebody who I know is from Thornton's. Would you like to speak, sir?
I want to thank you for moving forward with 2+ years of hard work and cooperation. Thank you very much.
That is Andy Goodman from GMX Real Estate Development, which is the party to our redevelopment agreement.
Thank you. Trustee Hollander?
Yeah, just one more observation. Things are changing in that corner. Rhapsody Cafe, if it does complete it where Sweet Basil was, is a very well-known and has been mentioned, very high following of folks, should be successful. We have a duplex development going in with Lexington Builders. There's a gas station going in. I have no idea what's happening with 37 acres as of today. It seems to change periodically.
Only God knows.
So I think at some point, TSCA planning development and the TIF district, we ought to look at this in maybe a more global way sometime in the near future, because I do think things will look differently 2 years from now than they are today.
I hope so. Are there any other comments from any of the other trustees? Is there anybody from the public who would like to make a comment? Seeing none and hearing none, I thank the people from Thornton's who have come to our meeting this evening, and we'll look forward to seeing some or all of you at the next one. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Zoning Board of Appeals report. And I don't believe we had a Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Following that is the police report. Chief Dano, would you like to? Need to unmute there, Bruce.
Okay. The activity since the last board meeting is in the board packets. That activity includes another burglary that occurred on the 14th, or on the occurred on the 4th in the 2500 block of Riverwoods Road. The good news is that we've been working with multiple municipalities and other jurisdictions on developing suspects and working together to investigate exactly who's been doing these burglaries, that many of them have a similar method of operation. And last night, I can't give you too many details, but last night, 2 of the suspects that we've been looking at were arrested in Oak Brook after committing burglaries in 2 towns, including Oak Brook. This all occurred last night, and after a pursuit and a foot chase, 2 of them were taken into custody. So that's the good news on residential burglary front. I emailed the board and other related parties our updated emergency operation plan. I recently just made some minor updates to it, but some of the trustees I know who are new, I don't believe have seen the plan, so they should have it now. It's a lot of pages, but it's easy to navigate. I hyperlinked the table of contents, so if you'd like to review any topic in there, just click on the hyperlink and it'll take you right to it. But most of the changes just had to do with contacts and updating trustee contact information. And if you do see anything in there that's not correct on your contacts, please let me know and I'll update it again. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions for the chief? Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you to all the guys who are following up on those burglaries, because that's just, it's very unnerving. So thanks to the force, thanks to them. Under information items and comments from the president, you can see on the agenda that I've noted that I'd like to have a short discussion on the creation of a new category of liquor license for the sale at gas station convenience stores. This is not simply focused on Thornton's. We've had a request from Anil Abbott for us to take a look at a liquor license. He would like to sell packaged beer and wine only. And so as we go forward with these liquor licenses, I just wanted to get a sense of what the board would like us to bring. And I think maybe Attorney Huvard might have some help on that, some thoughts on that to start the discussion.
Well, the testimony at the Plan Commission from Thornton's was that they kept alcohol behind in a locked case. Spirits in a locked case. There have been in the past, and I don't know how prevalent it is, I haven't gone shopping for this in a convenience store myself in a long time, so I wouldn't know, but there used to be a sort of routine limitation on the sale of those very into small little pint size of distilled spirits. I don't know if villages are still doing that or not, if events have superseded them, because now we have all of these other kinds of products, you know, we're spritzers and things which are also alcoholic. So I don't know if it's useful to try and define the kind of product, you know, just by size anymore that some villages long ago used to do. I think having some assurance that the alcohol is kept in a way that is not easily accessible to people who are underage or shouldn't be getting it is probably the key thing. I see Mike Krasicki from Thornton's is still here, so I mean, I know that this is important for Thornton's. They said that they very much wanted to have this ability. Anil at the mobile station has merely, you know, made the same claim that if you know, sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. So I was not thinking of anything in particular for the liquor license other than as a category, it would be a category that allowed the sale of alcohol at retail from a store like a convenience store rather than from a liquor store or from a restaurant. We just don't currently have that kind of category. But if there's anything else that the board wants to ask about, this would be, you know, be useful to us as we draft this.
Trustee Hollander.
I don't think we have a liquor store in Riverwoods.
No
I
more.
know you can get it at Woodman's and you can get it up on Milwaukee, but in the absence of having a location to purchase liquor, it seems to me that we should have that capability somewhere. And if the two gas stations or similar businesses like that can provide that service, it seems reasonable to me.
Would the board be amenable to us crafting possibly two different kinds of, or crafting some kind of a liquor license for you to react to? Or is there sentiment right now to limit the sale either to spirits or to single serve or those kinds of things?
I don't have a problem with having one license for both gas stations. But if Anil is only planning on doing beer and wine, and I don't know what his capabilities are of making sure hard alcohol is behind the counter or in a case, then maybe we should just craft two different licenses. Bruce, tell me if I'm wrong, but you could craft two different licenses and have one of each, and you could always change it to two of each, right? Two of one and none of the other. So
Correct.
it can't hurt to have two different licenses out there, I don't think.
Okay, all right. There any other thoughts on that? All right. We'll bring something to you next time about the liquor license thought. A couple other things I just wanted to make you aware of is that we are, and you may have seen it already in your email, your village email, we are going to have an appreciation luncheon for the volunteers, the trustees, the commissioners, and our service providers on December 8th. That is used to be, at any rate, an old tradition, sitting in Old Village Hall and being crammed together eating mastacholi. We're not going to do that. We've got a lot more room, but we have not expanded the guest list. We expect there could be about 20 people. We will be doing it in the boardroom. We will be spacing people out. We will be trying to act as a restaurant does, wear masks in until you're sitting down and eating. And we will be planning on some kind of buffet, meaning if you get up to go to the buffet, we'd like you to put your mask back on, go get your food, then come and sit down. But we do want to show appreciation, and at this time of year, I think some gratitude is in order. So you've probably gotten your invitation. It's for, I think it's December 8th, 11:30 to 1. So we hope we see a lot of you there. The other thing I wanted to talk about was we had our first meeting on water infrastructure. The board, we talked about that and people volunteered for that. We have a second meeting on the docket as well. There are some topics we need to tackle first to get the proper grounding. What kinds of legal help might we get? What does the financial picture look like, and so forth. So we've started, and I hope we continue and get to a place where we can bring some alternatives and a good proposition for the board to discuss. The other thing is I'm working on an organizational chart for our village, and that is intended to delineate responsibilities and have clear focus for our employees. That is also meaning that there will probably be a new position defined at some point in time, and that, as you know, needs to come to the board. So still working on that. And lastly, stairways. We had an HVAC person here today who was looking at the furnaces that are over by the boardroom, and of course, pulling down the stairway in that area, it just came down. And so it was able to be used, but it was, I think, dangerous. And we've got to have some remedy to that as well as the other one. So we're going to be looking into that, how to fix that stairway, and at some point in time, maybe even replace the one that's in the garage at this point with something more sturdy. So that's something on that did make the whiteboard as well. So that's in the works. We've got a lot of things in the works, as you know, that are going to take some administration. The hazardous tree survey. We wanted to put together a plan to talk about the addresses on Duffy. So there are lots of things, organizational process, procedure type things that we are currently trying to work on. So at some point, things might go a little slower so that other things that have more urgent needs go faster. So I'm going to beg your patience on things from time to time. And that's, if you have any questions for me or comments for on those items, I'd be happy to hear them now or later. Good, later. Moving on. We have a section here, visitors wishing to address the board. Do we have any emails? And I'm not seeing anybody. Here.
Again,
Nothing? Tree?
I'm bringing it up again. Hold on.
Okay.
No,
Okey dokey. On to old business. I put old business first because I thought we could ask our friends from Lauterberg and Amen to come and not have to stay till the absolute end. So what we have under old business is something we talked about last meeting, and this is the approval of the BSNA contract for account and associated operational systems. I'd like Trustee Clayton, who's head of the Finance Committee, to take the lead on this. We have our partners from Lauterberg and Amen present. We have Wes Levy, Nicole Kozlowski, and where are you, Roger? Roger Emig, where are you? There you are. Okay. So I will turn the discussion over to them at this point.
I guess to kind of introduce the topic, just a reminder of where we were last time. There were a number of questions that were raised that we tried to follow up on, at least to my knowledge. I haven't participated in all the meetings, but to my knowledge, the demonstrations went well. The capacity of the system is what we would like it to be. And just by way of summary, and then I'll turn it over to Wes. This is the system that the people who use the system every day want. It's the system that the people who use all three of the leading systems recommend. And it's a proven operationally superior and well-supported system. Wes?
Yes, thanks, Mike. First thing I want to address this evening is some of the open points or questions from the last meeting. And then I want to do another round of Q&A, if you will. Nicole and I have invited Kevin, who's at the meeting this evening, to answer questions directly that relate to the software.
And Kevin is a representative from BSNA, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
So just as a recap, some of the open points from the last meeting. Number one is cloud storage space. And after talking with and working with Kevin, there is no cap on the amount of storage or data that we use within the cloud. So the particular question was blueprints and designs that might be uploaded as part of the building module. But Kevin has assured there's no cap on the storage of the data that we store. Second item we had was the local version of the software versus the cloud-based version and the cost comparisons. We had Kevin go back and put together a proposal for the local BSNA, so stored on our servers. Implementation cost on that local version is roughly $16,000 more than the cloud-based. Ongoing fees for the local version are about half as much as the cloud-based. So a little more initial upfront costs, but lower costs years 2, 3, and onward. We did discuss training fees. Since the LNA staff is up to speed and uses this particular application in other places, we had discussed, the potential for not necessarily needing as much quoted training time. And Kevin assured us that the training and implementation is billed for what is used. This is just an estimate based on their expertise. But it's not just the finance department that needs training on the application. So there may be less time on the finance components and more time spent on building. But that is, we are billed for the time used. So even though it's quoted or suggested at 23,000, that might not be the end all be all. Another open item from the last meeting is references. Nicole and I went back through our list, and as far as for providing references for you guys, we didn't think that any of the clients that we currently utilize BSNA with would be good reference points, since it's all of our staff using the application. There's not a lot of client interaction. We want to be able to provide you an unbiased opinion. So Kevin is going to provide us similar sized entities as references for anyone on the board that is interested in reaching out. Another topic that we discussed was demos of the application. So not just the GL payroll financials pieces, but the building department components. And I believe that was done this week. And lastly, additional proposals. At the last meeting, we discussed not having a comparison, but also recognizing that comparing two different softwares isn't always apples to apples. We went back through some of the clients that we had kind of go out to bid for financial applications over the last 3 years. And in our client base, we didn't have anyone that was similar enough to you guys to use as a comparison. We had entities with $300, $400 million budgets that have more robust needs in terms of software. So providing you comparison numbers from proposals, I don't think would be applicable in this case. We have not at this point gone out to get proposals from other software providers, but that was a question at the meeting 2 weeks ago. That is the list that I had in terms of open questions or items. So I think at this point, I'd like to do a little bit more Q&A for questions that the board has. As I'd mentioned, we have Kevin here from BSNA to assist with any questions.
Trustee Jamerson.
Yes, sir.
So I want to circle back on the hosting fee, and I know it's unlimited. The cloud is unlimited, but you're telling me what it says in there, the storage and of data is through Microsoft Azure. And you're telling me that the storage there is unlimited for $4,000? That's what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, I'd like to see that. I want that to be in writing in the contract, Bruce. It says that you are guaranteeing that that is going to be unlimited storage for $4,000 a year. The other thing is, I just want to make sure, and I understand you said that the building department looked at this evidently yesterday, because that's the only day that is in this week besides today. Or I guess it could have been today. The goal of the building department, and I probably won't be here when this happens, given the pace that it's moved to this point, is to digitize all of the building department records, so that for every single address, there is a digital file. Right now, we have a paper file for every single address, and believe it or not, we have sometimes 3, 4, 5 sets of blueprints because there's been that many additions done. I want to make sure that this software can handle that. I don't know if it can or not, but we want to be, the goal is to be able to have someone from the building department or anybody else in the village that has access to the system to be able to pull up 300 Port Wine Road and see everything that's in that file that's happened on that piece of property since the village was incorporated, or however far back our records go. And believe it or not, they go back pretty far. The file cabinet across the hall, the room across the hall is filled with file cabinets that have nothing but property files in them. And Pat Glenn can tell us that there's a room at Gowalt Hamilton that has rolls upon rolls upon rolls of blueprints. I need to make sure that that can happen. because otherwise, and, you know, I know that LNA is going to be using this now, but they may not be our consultant forever. I hate, you know, I'm sorry to say that, that could be the case, you know, it's not an unlimited gig. So I still have, I mean, tell me that can be achieved with your software.
Yeah, that absolutely can be achieved. And to give you an idea, I mean, the Village of Riverwood, I understand you want to, you know, attach these documents for every property, but maybe if I shared some of our other clients with you, like the City of Lake Forest, the Village of Northbrook, the Village of Skokie, you know, much larger communities, many more properties that are using this software and utilizing that for their communities. You know, I did, when I spoke with Wes, I knew there was no cap in the contract on the data, so I did reach into our legal team and have them dig into it. And the cost for data storage, the way that we access that data through Microsoft Azure, the cost to us is negligible. So it would be, I mean, I was thinking every 100 gigabytes or so, it cost us a couple of dollars. There will be no cap on the data. I know blueprints are large files. You know, we're aware of that. We deal with the transmission of those files when we're applying for building permits, you know, and working with cities and doing that, but there is not going to be a cap on that, and the cost at which we did. You understand, hosting this in Azure, the way that we've designed the software, it is a site, and on this site we have, it's referred to as multi-tenant, which means that multiple communities can be using the same site. Now, every single one of you will have your own secure Microsoft SQL database that no one else would be able to access. But, you know, those servers, that is the way it's designed, it's not necessarily that we have 6 servers dedicated to the village, right? The resources are shared, which allows us to be more efficient and to provide the software at a, you know, more affordable cost.
So so you said the Village of Northbrook is one of your clients. I'm really disappointed, super disappointed that wasn't brought up earlier. I spent 4 years doing inspections for the Village of Northbrook, and I know the people in that building department, and I would have been much more at ease if someone would have said, call the Village of Northbrook and talk to the building department. So that's unfortunate. I realize that they're much larger than we are, and they have much greater use. They have a lot more staff. Believe me, I know. But you know, to say that you don't have any clients that are our size is a cop out, in my opinion.
No, sir. I apologize. I must have misspoke. It's not that we do not have clients your size. In fact, the Village of Long Grove, I would say, is probably similar in size. And very close by, you know, they're using the software. The Village of Hawthorne Woods is probably similar in size. The Village of Lincolnshire is probably similar in size. I was trying to make the point that we have some clients that are very larger that we're still handling more than that.
I get it. But my point is that, you know, we asked for references, and that was 2 weeks ago. We got no references. And I don't know, it doesn't sound like, did anybody at the village call any of the references? Did anybody at the village call any of the references? No, okay. Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from any of the other trustees? Do you have any questions for they are our consultants in this adventure and in this selection. And I did have a conversation with Vivian, who had had some interaction with BSNA, and she was impressed by what she was seeing. She knows she can work with it. It offers more than what we have now. So those are just to relay what that the building department did have an opportunity to test some of it. Now, granted, they will need more training. She will need more training, and there's always a learning curve. So again, if there's more training there, but less training in the finance department, that might work. Trustee Haber, please.
So one of the questions I think that we haven't resolved, assuming that we're gonna go forward and vote on whether or not we're gonna do the BSNA software, is whether we're gonna do a cloud-based or whether we're not gonna do cloud-based and just do, have the data in-house. So I'm wondering, what and this is probably more designed as a question to Mike, what's your thought on that? Because it sounds to me like on the, over time, it may be more economical to have it in-house, because we'll save that money, but I just was wondering whether or not you have any thoughts on that or have done any kind of an analysis on that.
My opinion for operational reasons and access reasons is that we should go with the cloud-based system.
Trustee Jamerson?
I would actually like to give you my opinion on this. I think we should go with a cloud-based system. And I'll tell you why. First of all, if we store all the data that we want to store with the building department, we're going to need bigger servers than we have now. And they're going to be expensive when it comes time to replace them. You have to pretty much replace servers. In my business, we have to replace our servers every 8 to 10 years because, they quit supporting them. So while you will save some money because you're not spending that every year, when it comes time to replace the servers or to increase the amount of storage capacity we have and the backup capacity, you're not going to save any money. You're going to save money by going to the cloud. So assuming it doesn't cost us any more than what it says, then you're going to save money. That's my opinion.
Are there any other questions or comments? Other questions for Wes? Questions for Kevin? Trustee Clayton?
Well, if there are no more questions, then I would like to move that we go forward with the BSNA proposal pending review of the final contract by the village attorney.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Nay.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Dickon.
Aye.
Trustee Eastman.
Aye.
Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move on to the next item of business. Thank you very much to our partners from Lauterberg and Amen and Kevin Schaefer from BSNA for your attendance and your presentation. Okay, I've lost my agenda. Here we are. Okay, moving on, new business. First item of business is discussion of the request for proposal for the RFP process and recommendation for the approval of the auditor. Trustee Clayton, again, please.
As I mentioned the last couple times that we had gone out with the RFP, we got 3 qualified responses. We've gone through a fairly formal discussion of the responses, and I have to say that it was a difficult and very close decision. The costs were relatively the same. To give you an idea, the Selden Fox costs $25,000 a year. That compares to the Miller Cooper cost presently of $23,500 plus a lot of extras that has gotten us around $30,000 going forward.
40,000, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I was using your compromise number.
Oh, sorry.
So we're recommending that we go with Selden Fox. We were impressed by the experience of the Selden Fox engagement partner and the amount of time that he has committed to being involved with Riverwoods. He has prior experience with Riverwoods as the auditor before we re-engaged Miller Cooper. At this point, we've tried to explore why we moved away from Selden Fox before, and I think it had to do with the internal staff that we had and the ability for the internal staff to interface with Sullivan Fox, which is a lot different than the way it sits today. The specific audit manager on the account has 20 years experience. We've had many discussions about the schedule. This was narrowed down and made more specific in the interview because we're really putting a premium on filing with the state on time this year and making sure that we get off to a good start. Sullivan Fox was willing to meet with us starting in December to begin the preliminary field work and then to really get started right after the first of the year. So at this point, our recommendation is that the Finance Committee engage Sullivan Fox as our auditor for the next 3 years.
Is there any discussion? Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve the Finance Committee's recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Is there any further discussion or question? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber.
Aye.
Thank you.
Approved. The last item of new business is the approval of the release and settlement agreement with North Shore Gas Company. We sent this to the trustees via separate email. Attorney Huvard, would you like to discuss this, please?
Azavar is the company that we engaged on a contingency basis to look at some of the utility providers, telecommunication providers, to see if they were properly coding residents that are in the village of Riverwoods. You know, because we share a zip code with Deerfield, sometimes that's one example where people who are in the village are not really coded to the village. This was an audit that they did of records with North Shore Gas. They managed to find some errors, and North Shore Gas agreed to pay us a settlement amount. The settlement agreement is a release of all the claims that we could have under that fairly modest amount. And I think under the terms of the settlement, at least the practice is Azavar wouldn't be auditing them for another period of time. I think it was a couple of years. In the meantime, just FYI, Azavar's asked us to expand its auditing role to take a look at our sales tax receipts and whether or not all the sales tax businesses that should be coded to us in the village are being properly coded. They've sent us an engagement letter or amendment to their current engagement letter to look at that. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. So having looked at some of the low-hanging fruit and some of the other providers, I think they want to turn their attention to that next. But this is a settlement with North Shore Gas. It's an outcome fruition of their efforts over last couple of years. Just looking for a motion to approve the settlement agreement, and the mayor would be able to execute it, and I think the village would get a check.
Is there any discussion? Is there a motion? Trustee Haber?
I have a question. So
Certainly.
Rick, I don't recall, because I looked at the release, it was a while ago, it was circulated, and I don't really recall the language that you just suggested, which, because I think I would have been upset by it, which suggests that they can't be audited again for a couple of years. It seems to me that that basically allows them to recognize that they have the ability to go unnoticed in any conduct. So to the extent that we could get that released, that changed from the release, I would like that to be modified.
May I suggest maybe that the board approve the agreement with the stipulation that if I'm able to obtain the removal of that language, to do so, and if not, that the mayor is authorized to sign it in any event, or we can bring it back to you. I mean, it's if you look at the amount involved, I mean, it's
That's why I don't like the language. If we were getting, if it was $100,000 or something, but for $3,000 to give up our rights to audit for the next several years, I think is just, there's like the quid pro quo, it's just not there. So I just feel really uncomfortable with that language.
Well, then we can go back to them. No harm. We've been waiting a long time already for this.
Trustee Jamerson.
So does the language mean that we can't audit them for 2 years, or that we can't go back for those 2 years? I mean, if we can't audit them for the 2 years, but we can still go back to 2 years, I don't see what the harm is there.
Well, it says that the municipality, including agent, have the right, consistent with the provisions of the list of section municipal code, to audit the utilities computation of uncollected gross receipts, but such audit shall not be commenced sooner than 2 years following the release effective date. So I guess you could go back 2 years. You can't, I guess you could go back to the release date, but you have to wait 2 years before you do it.
They just don't want you auditing them every year. I mean, because it's a pain in the butt for them. That's the way I would take it, but I'm not an attorney.
Yeah, I think if we can get that clarified, I'm totally okay with that, but I feel like implicit in that is it's ambiguous. Does it mean that we can't, audit those 2 years, or, we can audit it in the third year? If we could audit it in the third year, I'm okay with it.
I'll clarify that and let you know at the next meeting. We can hold off on this.
Can we hold off? Okay. Okay, are there any other questions right at this point? Okay, there's no reason to go into executive session. Are there any other comments from the board? Anything we missed tonight that you'd like to comment on?
I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you all.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. That's a good comment. Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Season of gratitude, right? The next meeting date is December 7th. And the governor's order goes all the way through, I think it's the 11th or so. So we can anticipate a virtual meeting one more time. That's unless we get, I'm not even going to say it. It's just going to be virtual. It's just going to be virtual. Not going to keep you on pins and needles. Trustee Hollander.
Move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Okay, so no discussion, no comments, roll call.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
I
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for your service.
Happy
Bye-bye.
Thanksgiving,
everybody.
everyone.
Right.
Thanksgiving.